Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Hey, family. It's another Thursday morning with Mu Shemsu-t on Master Force. I am present to how thankful I am for the Master Force Leadership Summit that we actually curated on August the 18th. It was a wonderful gift that we shared with the community. Maybe you can catch some of the reruns. But thanks to those who did tune in, who did show up, and all of the speakers and presenters. Just thank you for your time, energy, and attention. I just appreciate the willingness to show up. Sometimes in life, that's all we have to do is show up and share our gifts, right? And we can be part of the female solution that changes the world. Wonderful. So today we're going to continue our amazing conversation with Brotha G. Man, this is deep, and we're going to get even deeper. All right. So I suggest that you get your pen and pencils out, your paper, whatever you take notes on, because we're going to really delve into some very interesting aspects of who we are as beings. Okay. And what we actually contribute to the overall benefit of this planet. This is why it's so important for us to remember who we are. Okay, so I'm not going to get on the soapbox. Let me bring in Brotha G. Good morning, Brotha G. How are you?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thank you for your time today. I'm looking forward to just, you always just blow me away. So that's okay. I can handle it now,
You better strap yourself in for this one.
I got to strap myself in. Now, before we get into that, can you just give a little bit about who you are in case people didn't catch the first 2 episodes? Because this is Afromance 3 with Brotha G. Okay.
That is correct. Originally, this is what I was famous for. This is my book. It's called Shades of Memnon, and I do, I'm a historian and kind of a visionary about certain things, and I recreate adventures based on ancient African history. And while I was doing the research for those things, that's where I ran across the beginnings of what, eventually became the Afromance thing.
Excellent. And then tell me, when you actually started working on Afromance, and you said you came across it doing the Memnon series, what was it that had you realize the capacity of the male and female relationship that you begin? You have you have looked in every nook and cranny in this now, okay?
It was a combination of what I learned early from Ron Neferman, the Shechem, the man who did the Middle Terror book series, and he put out the Middle Terror Oracles. And then it was a combination of what I literally experienced myself. Because I will say that if I had not had those 2 things to light a fire under me, there's no way that I would have been able to, to delve into these things. The Shechem put out a series of I guess you can say lectures, from the 80s and the 90s. And for some reason, the people, the Saraset people, the priesthood people, they called me in one day and told me that they did some readings on me and that I was doing priesthood work. And they gave me 2 phone book stacks filled with those lectures, which they say they only would give to people who are studying to be priests. I wasn't studying to be a priest, but they told me I was doing priesthood work and that something told them that I should have these documents. And so I took them. And I researched them for over 10 years. No, not 10 years, like 7 years. And I'm still doing research on them to this very day. Within those documents, Ron Neferman talked about the very foundation of human existence is the yin and the yang, what people call the yin and the yang, the male female, how all that fits together and all of that. And then amidst all of that, I actually had what you call a lightweight and a not unintentional tantric experience with a woman, and we were making love, and she was really feeling funny because she lit candles while we were doing it, and she only had some black candles, and I told her, "Don't worry about the candles." Well, anyway, she had an orgasm, and all those candles went out as if somebody covered them up with something. And we woke up the next morning and looked at those candles, and it looked like something had put them all out at the same time. And I went to a priestess at Osiris-Set, and I asked, I described what was happening. She said, "Oh, she was projecting." And I said, what are you talking about? Then you read the stuff that the Checkam wrote about, right? She was projecting. She was utilizing her female energy, combined with your protective male energy to actually carry out something. She didn't like those candles, and so she took action against those candles. And that blew me away. That's something that I literally experienced myself, and it sent me down a rabbit hole that eventually led to Afromance.
That is a pretty fascinating story. We actually teach a course in Master Force called Kundalini Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And we work with couples to have them understand how powerful their unionized energy is, especially at the point of ejaculation, or even non-ejaculation, because it's the culmination of their energy and actually forming one thought. Where two or one are gathered, where two are gathered, right? Where two are gathered, you can concentrate on something and create the outcome. Or outcomes themselves will be created.
Yep, that's exactly the way it goes. And the Checkam really goes real deep into it. And I did further research on that. And the funny thing was, and most people know about this. Most people know about the outer esoteric stuff. Most people know more about the esoteric nature of these things than they do of the biological nature of it. And the biological nature is the underpinnings of where the esoteric actually comes from. If you did not have these chemical signals, the chemical signals are the fuel from which these esoteric things actually arrive. And I talked about it a little bit last time. I'm gonna give a little bit more details so people will understand why, so a little bit more about the mechanics of these things. I talked about hexadecanol. Hexadecanol is a anti-infanticide. It's a chemical signal that comes from babies. Everybody has it, but it's very, very much strong. It comes out in waves from the head of a little bitty baby. It comes out from the waves of that, in order to make the people around him, and to actually mentally manipulate them, in order for that baby to be taken care of. Because everybody knows a baby is very helpless, and he can't do anything physical to save himself or to make things safe for himself or herself. It has to be a chemical thing, and we evolved to do that because there was a point in our history where it was not safe to be a baby at all. So that's the baby message that comes from a baby, because if that message did not come from children, we would not be who we are, because we would be killing our children. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is, it's the chemical signals that go between men and women. And I want to get a little bit more in depth into that, so people really have an understanding of where these things come from. Androstenone is what I call the activator. Androstenone, it is a derivative of testosterone. So that means that normally men who have more testosterone, they will create more androstenone. Androstenone is a very interesting chemical signal. When women smell, it comes from the underarms and the bodily odors of men. That's where it comes from. It comes from your apocrine glands. There's two types of glands in the human body. There's the apocrine gland that creates these chemical signals, located under your arms, your groin, sometimes your head, and around your nipples. All these places where the apocrine glands exist. And the reason why you know the apocrine glands have to do with sexuality is because they do not start operating until puberty. They're part of our sexual organ system that most people have no idea about. So when a man secretes this androstenone, when women smell, they breathe in and they inhale the androstenone. It vaporizes from off of a man. Okay, that's just two ways for you to experience androstenone from a man: from breathing it in, and from having it, and from sexual intercourse. From sexual intercourse, that's how it sort of soaks into your body. Either one, but most people experience it, on an ongoing basis from breathing it in. And when a woman comes in contact with androstenone, what it does is it makes a woman calm, and very, very interestingly, it makes a woman very, very generous. And, I'll be describing in a minute why it is that this was created to make women generous, and why you have to have generosity in women from an evolutionary standpoint. And then the third one, there's a picture. And then the third one, is estrotestosterone. And this is a very interesting one, and I want ladies to really hear this and understand. Estrotestosterone is a combined chemical signal. You don't get estrotestosterone unless you get the androstenone. When you take in a man's androstenone into your bodily system, the androstenone will migrate to your ovaries, ladies. It migrates to your ovaries, and then it gets combined with estrogenic material that your ovaries put out, and it gets combined into something different called estrotestosterone. And estrotestosterone is not for you women. It's not for any other purpose but to affect men. And when men breathe in the estrotestosterone, as I was telling Mu Shemsu-t last week, it makes you into a Barry White type character. It makes you very, very motivated to have sex with a woman, but it also makes you motivated to earn it from being a civilized human being. It makes you want to be civilized in order to get that woman. And so that's one thing that it does to a man. The other thing that it does to a man, it makes men get along with other men. That's another really big thing. And the other big thing it does, androstenone, not androstenone, but estrotestosterone will make a man, it will not, let me backtrack a little bit. Androstenone and estrotestosterone, they are pushes. They don't take over your mind. They push you towards a certain way. And what estrotestosterone will push a man towards is being creative in a way that benefits community as opposed to benefit himself. And the reason why they know these things is because scientists have done very extensive research, and it's in my book, detailed in the Afromance book, about the effects of these things. In other words, anybody who's had a psychological test or know anything about doing psychological tests, there's tests that you can do to people where you subject them to certain things, and then the test will tell you whether they're being altruistic or not, whether they're being selfish or not, whether they want to share or not, under the different circumstances. And they did these things with these chemical signals, and they found out that they are invariably, and this is the miracle part about it, ladies and gentlemen, they are pro-social chemical signals. Nobody that they have subjected these chemo signals to has been inspired to do harm to anybody. They go one way, right? And that is to make you pro-social. If you put up the images from the start here, and then I'll go through this so people will be able to see the application of these. So here it is, the chemical piece, from violent apes to guardian niche. Human sexuality is not a private reproductive transaction. It is an advanced pro-social technology engineered for survival. The beginning of this, y'all, that made me understand this is the revelation that I had when I found out how the apocrine glands work and what they do. We all are familiar with sex being something that is between two people or behind closed doors. No, your human sexuality is not expressed mostly in that way. The apocrine glands are very much public. You go around in public secreting these chemical signals, and those chemical signals are activated at puberty. This is a sexual thing. It is a publicly sexual thing, right? And it is a pro-social public sexual thing. And the reason why, from what you see with this image here, is because human beings evolved from something that was like the apes that we know of, the gorillas, the chimpanzees, those type of creatures. We evolved from them. And show the next slide, and we'll see. It's very interesting. Those creatures, they can have sex maybe a couple dozen times, and then that will result in a pregnancy. Those creatures. So we can have sex up to over 1,000 times before we get a pregnancy. So scientists for a long time, and some of them still are trying to figure out, why would that be? You know, these other creatures, they're very efficient with the way that they have, you know, with the mating and all that, because, you know, everybody knows that mating is for making babies, right? Well, for those creatures, it's primarily for that purpose, but for us, it's not. For us, it is to generate and secrete these chemical signals. Why is it so important? Next slide, Moot. Here's the reason why those chemical signals are so important. The violent ape baseline, infanticidal loop. The male strategy of chimpanzees, gorillas, baboons, and a whole bunch of other apes is when a alpha male takes over, one of the first things that it does is it will kill the infants of the other alpha male. In other words, an alpha male will beat up the other alpha male or kill him, take over. He's running things now, right? And the first thing he does is line these females up in a row or chase them down, grab their babies out of their arms, dash their babies against the trees, tear the babies' throats open with their teeth. They will kill the infants of the rivals. And what that does is it puts the females back into estrus so that now they can have babies with them, right?
Yeah.
This is a part of the ape world that most people don't know anything about. They don't talk about this with the zoo thing. You know, they don't teach this because it's so brutal. It is brutal, it's cruel, and it is how they reproduce. Now, here's the other revelation for ladies, right? There's a lot of people who think that that only male creatures, only male primates act this way. Well, I got news for you. The female strategy among these apes is it is very common for a female ape, a female primate, some of these lower primates, because we're primates too, we're just a higher primate. But some of these lower primates, what these females would do is you better hope for the baby's sake that there's plenty of food in the area where they're feeding. Because if the food starts running out, the females will sneak up on another female while she's holding her baby in her arms and snatch that baby out of the other female's arms and kill it so that her baby will have more food.
So they were doing, you know, what did they call that? The war for the food. Remember, there was a movie out about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is kind of what was going on with that. If the food gets low, then you have to get rid of people, and the easiest people to get rid of are babies and elders. Yes.
Right. That's the easiest ones. So this tells you, ladies and gentlemen, why it is that smelling androstenone makes women generous. It makes them want to share. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to make them not act like this, and it's also, you know, the reason why the other chemical signals make men not want to harm babies and make men want to get along with other men. That's because these creatures were our baseline. We evolved from creatures that were like that, and we could not at all be us Just imagine you're a woman, you're a human woman, you're walking with your baby on your back, you live in a ghetto, there's not enough food, you live in a food desert or whatever. Not only do you have to worry about that, if this was still the case, but not only do you have to worry about that, but you have getting food in the food desert, but now you have to worry about another woman sneaking up on you
and bopping you upside the head
and taking your baby and killing it so that her baby can have, so under these circumstances, y'all, you could not have human civilization, of course. You could not create human civilization. So God.
So what you're saying is in the evolutionary process, and that's what I love about the magic of the universe is that it's continuing to evolve based on what the needs are. This is why we actually had the New Earth children come in, the indigo, the rainbow, the crystal, the starseeds. They came in because the universe said, hey, these people are not getting it. They need help.
Yep. Yeah. We got to move up. So listen, y'all, here's the difference. These lower apes, they have babies quick, fast, and when the babies come out, the babies are functional. When a baby comes out of one of these type of lower apes, they're ready, their eyes are wide open, they're ready to not only feed from the mother, but they're ready to reach for food. They're much more functional. And as everybody knows, our babies are not functional for a long time. You have to take very good care of a human baby, right? A human baby cannot cling to you as you walk around. You have to strap that baby down to you. That's what apes can do. So here's what the hexadecanol does, y'all. The threat, of course, is vulnerable infants. They can't fight back physically. The technology that nature installed was hexadecanol. Hexadecanol comes from the baby's head, y'all. That's a very interesting thing. Hexadecanol comes from the two places. Now, I want people to hear this clearly so you really know, how just wonderful nature is, and maybe how hilarious nature is too. Because the places where, from a baby, where you will get the most hexadecanol is where you smell the baby when you're holding it, which is the baby's head, right? When the baby first emerges from out of the body, that's the baby's head, right? So as soon as that baby emerges, that signal goes out. The other place where you get the hexadecanol is baby poop, right? So, right, there's two major places from a baby where the hexadecanol leaves that baby's body and it comes out. And these are the two places where the parents, the caregivers, will come in most contact with in caring for that child. So it tells you, back and forth, the babies come. he needs to be taken care of, right?
Yes.
So that's a very interesting thing. Okay, go to the next one.
That is so fun. That's amazing. I love this. Yes.
So here's what the molecule. This is the very interesting thing. I told you all what the male and female does, and the baseline apes. So when this molecule hits the male brain, it tells them to calm down and not hurt me. Okay, don't try to eliminate me because I'm not your baby. All right, that's what it does to the male brain. And for the female brain, now here, check this out. It triggers her to be very aggressive, right? Now understand how important this is. It's telling you the same molecule says to a man, don't hurt me, but it also says to a woman, be on the lookout for those heifers trying to kill me. All right.
Don't let them hurt. It says, don't let them hurt you.
Right. That's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it does, y'all. So it's very so it disarms the males and it arms the females, because one of the things that I figured out when I was doing the research about the female infanticide thing, the males are very overt with what they do. They're the biggest and they're strongest. They just beat up the other alpha male. The females are very sneaky with the way that they do this type of stuff. They're very sneaky with it. They do signs to another ape that says,
I would say strategic, sneaky.
Right, yeah.
Strategic.
Yeah, that's what they do. They say, they give signals to another female with a baby. Hey, I found a tree with some fruit. Let's go get it. Bring your baby.
Wow.
Okay.
Get them out of the herd, bring them over, bam their head on the tree. Okay.
Right. So,
That's
you know,
strategy.
yeah, if you don't have the muscle, you got to have the strategy, right?
Yes, right.
So that's the way, you know, that's how it goes. So anyway, so we'll go to the next one. All right, here's the cross sections. This is very interesting. How you have the infinity symbol here. All right, you have the infinity symbol, and you have how the estrotestosterone goes over to the male and affects his brain, and how the androstenone goes over to the female, and it is an infinite loop, y'all. That's what it does. It feeds each other, right? If you do not have this loop in place, it cannot feed each other. You have to have people to come in and be involved in this. People have to. A man is the activator. In fact, one thing I didn't tell y'all about androstenone is that young women who are about to get, to become women, when they smell androstenone, it will jumpstart a healthy female cycle, birth cycle. It strengthens everything that has to do with baby making inside of a woman, right? They found out that if you are a woman and you having, menstrual problems, stuff like that, smell some androstenone. It'll help. It might not cure it, but it will help. And that's what it's designed to do. That's what androstenone is designed to do. It is nature's way of making sure that we are not complete unless we have each other. We're not complete. We're incomplete creatures.
That's right. This gives to the argument for why it's such a nice idea to have gender schools, female, male schools, especially when you're in the middle, grades as you're moving into puberty, right? Because those hormones, make you curious as well. And so I can imagine the different things that happen when an athletic man comes in and he's sweating.
Yes. In my book Afromance, there's a whole chapter in there about how athletic men are the activators. In other words, listen, and I want all men to understand this. That man that your woman wants, who is not you, right? Don't be jealous of him, right? He can't make love to all the women in the world, but what he will do is he will activate her for you. All right. This is okay.
Yeah.
Don't be mad, because your woman's eyebrow, went up, at this guy that's walking around. But there's two reasons for that. One, it's healthy. That's a healthy reaction coming from a woman. And two, as Afromance talks about, you don't own that woman. You don't own her. You do not own her body and soul and her reproductive capacity. That's not yours. Whatever that is that comes to you, you are borrowing that. That's not your property. Okay, she's not your property, right? So that's one thing. And what Afromance will tell you about is that from a biochemical and even some kind of a spiritual social aspect, you can tell that she's not yours. You're not going to make a woman stop giving estrotestosterone to men who are not you. All right, let me say that again. You're not going to make the estrotestosterone that comes from a woman's body that's designed to uplift men. You're not going to put a force field around your woman to make that estrotestosterone not leave her body and go into the nose of another man who is not you. That's impossible. You're not going to be able to do that.
That is a very good, and we need to do a group discussion around this because, a lot of men want to protect their family and they move into control, which is not the same as protection. And so a lot of times they think what you're saying, they're going to put a fence around their family, their woman or whatever, but the universe doesn't work like that.
No, it never has. And in fact, Afromance goes to great length to tell you why that is a very, very terrible thing. I'm gonna go off on a brief tangent so everybody will understand what I'm talking about. Estrotestosterone is designed to uplift men and make men civilized. If you have a civilization where there's a bunch of men walking around and all their women are covered up, and all their women are covered up from head to toe, right? That means that the estrotestosterone that makes men civilized cannot get into the nose of the male population.
Ooh.
Now, you can we're not going to get into it, but you can use your what's called constraint logic, right? Let me give y'all one of the things that has really made this book what it is. It's constraint logic. Constraint logic, y'all, is this. If I ask you, Mu Shemsu-t, where you were born or when you were born, right? I don't have to, prior to that, ask you if you were born.
You know that I was born.
You're standing here in front of me, right? And everybody knows, unless there's something really mysterious that most people don't know about, that is the way that human beings come into the earth. So constraint logic will tell you. I use constraint logic to tell me that we came from before I got the details, but I use constraint logic to tell me that human beings evolved from lower violent apes. Why did constraint logic tell me this? Because of how the chemical signals work. That's constraint logic. If we did not come from something where those chemical signals, that if a baby did not need to be protected from infanticide, then the then the hexadecanol that comes from the baby's head and from a baby's poop look, anything that God or nature, whatever, creates, it has a purpose, particularly if it stays around for a long time. Stuff that just has no purpose, it doesn't stay around. It might be like some type of nature experiment or something like that, but it doesn't stay around for millions of years unless there's a purpose for it, right? Unless there's a purpose for it. Can we go to the next slide?
And it's a successful purpose.
Exactly.
Evolutionary. It does move us forward. Yes.
Otherwise, it will be gone.
All right. Now we have quite a few more slides to get through, so we may have. Okay.
All right. This is part of the part of proof that I have within Afromance. I picked out some very interesting people from Africa. The Dinka people, these are the tallest people in the world, the tallest, and they're probably the darkest people in the world. You got the Sand people down there. They're some of the shortest people in the world. But the interesting thing about these two populations is that according to both anthropology and genetic sciences, both these groups of people are they're some of the oldest. They probably are the oldest human races intact on this earth, right? They're the oldest. They're the most genetically oldest people in the whole world, right?
Wow!
All of them, both of these two people, right? They have genetic lineages going back tens of thousands of years at least, right? The bloodline of these people is undiluted. And also their culture is also undiluted. Neither one of these people, as well as the Himba, have been taken over by Islam. They haven't been taken over by Christianity. None of that stuff. They're still practicing what they practiced for tens of thousands of years.
Wow.
All the people that I showed you right here, they all practice open and equitable sexuality. In other words, none of these people that I'm showing you on this map, in their cultures are thousands of years ago, they don't practice what we call enforced monogamy. None of them do. So these are the templates, the template people of humanity that I'm talking about. And so is the Himba people too. They're not that old as the other two, but they're template people too. None of them, at least in the Himba, among the Himba people, 48% of the babies born are not born of the man who is the head of that household. And the men don't care. The men don't care. The Himba people, they're very open. You know, it's very common for, if you go to the Himba people, you go visit your friend, and your friend will say, hey man, you you got any for the last couple of days or whatever? You know, let me ask my wife or one of my wives if they want to accommodate you, if they think you're cute or whatever. And then
I don't think they go off and they think you cute. I mean,
something like that. But I'll put it this way: socially cute. All right, you have to be socially cute, because all this is based on sociality. And when they interviewed these people and said, "Aren't you mad because these women are having babies and with men who are not you?" They're like, "Well, we care. We did the same thing over across the way. We don't care. We love all babies. We don't care about that. Well, don't you think that don't you own your women? No, we don't own them. That's not how we think, right?
Yeah, we missed the idea that the universe is always going to populate, going to populate. So a child coming into the world, it doesn't even care what vessel is coming through. Let me in. I have something to do, to teach. I have to learn myself. My soul has work to do. So it's going to come in whatever way you can get in.
All right, next slide there. All right, this is the Ankh, and I broke it down for the major elements that I've discovered during Afromance. The top loop right there, it's very interesting. That is the manufacturing center for estradiol and for hexadecanol, right? That represents the woman's womb, right? That's where that stuff gets manufactured. Okay, you don't have a manufacturing thing, right? And now, very tellingly, all right, a woman's this. I'm about to answer a question that people have thought in their mind that they have not wanted to maybe come out with, right? Here it is. The reason why human beings were able to not have monogamy, were non-monogamous for 99% of our history, 300,000 years, and they didn't all die of venereal disease the way we would die if we did the same thing that they did now, the way they did it, is because the woman's vagina, particularly the African woman's vagina, is designed to eliminate low-level pathologies. Wow. Low-level pathologies. If low-level pathologies, what we call STIs, get inside of your strengthened regular woman's vagina, it will eliminate those things. That's what it's designed for. Remember now, we're talking about times where you didn't have no pharmacies, and you didn't have no antibiotics. You didn't have none of this stuff. So God had to create something. Why? Because the human beings will always come into contact with biological stuff that might be pathogens. That's part of human life. So, but in order to make sure that we can propagate and do what we need to do to process these chemical signals, what happened was that it created a pathogen moat. I call it the vaginal moat. A moat, if anybody understands, is something that you put around your castle, you put around whatever it is that you try to protect.
That's right.
To keep something out of that, from coming in. And so this is what the vaginal moat is designed for, and what it actually, it kept us, safe from all these STDs. Now, what happens is this: the STDs will always get stronger if they can. If you get an STD and then you place whatever part of your body that STD has jumped on, and you put it somewhere where there's no vaginal moat to kill that STD, right? What will happen is that STD will bounce around in that non-moat area. It will bounce around and it will get stronger. They call it gain of functions. It will evolve from a weak pathogen into a strong pathogen, because the woman's vagina was designed to eliminate that. So I'm gonna let you use your constraint logic to understand what I'm talking about here, right? We're not gonna get into it, but you can use your own constraint logic about that. So the next thing, the crossbar is the men and women giving those chemical signals to each other, and the stem, of course, That's the baby. That is the if it wasn't for the hexadecanol, y'all, if it wasn't for the hexadecanol, the first thing that had to be done, y'all, the most urgent thing that had to be done for the human species to turn into what I call the guardian species, you have to quit, you have to stop that infanticide. Yeah. That's number one. If you don't, the infanticide, according to the scientists that have looked into this, the hexadecanol has to come before the estrotestosterone or the androstenol, because you won't even get to those because the baby's dead and then your whole race is dead. Everybody's dead, and you're still eight.
That's right.
Right. Next slide. All right. Here's what this is what I have the evaluation here. I have the evaluation of the way African people, all right, as the basal people that evolved this. Now, other people can and do evolve the African matrix of mating, right? But unfortunately, we're under now the ownership niche, and this came about in the Neolithic, male enforced polygyny, and this is very interesting, y'all. This is what makes it so astounding, is that we're really not in a monogamous, culture anyway. We're in a polygynous culture. Why? Because men under the ownership niche, as soon as they get power, they get as many women as they want.
As many as they can afford. Absolutely.
Right, as many as they can afford. They will get, and guess what? The other people around them, including women, will just say, oh, well, they're rich, they're powerful.
They can afford it. They can afford to be like that.
Yeah, they can afford it. So, so I'm not gonna complain. Hey, Trump, man, doesn't your wife hear about you getting with all these women? Who cares? I'm paying her enough money. I'm paying her enough money.
Absolutely.
Right. What's this girl Cassie? The girl Cassie that was in this thing with P. Diddy. There was a court proceeding that said that she called up when she after getting beat on and peed on and all kind of stuff. She went and she called Nicki Minaj and she said, Nicki, oh, he's doing me like this and he's doing like that. And Nicki said, girl, you better stay put. You know how many other women want to be in your position? You can take as many punches and as much pee as you can take, as long as you stay in that rich position with that rich man.
But that's only if you have the value system that says that, well, right. Material living is more important than my peace. Exactly.
Right, exactly. So let's go to the next slide. We all know what this is all about here.
Yeah.
All right. The genetic height, y'all. All right. Scientists know. All right. It's a very, very common thing. Scientists know that pre-agriculture all over the world, when they examine the genetic structure of human beings, what happens is they know that human beings, our lineage as human beings is a 2-to-1 thing. We had two female ancestors for every one male ancestor, right? That's because the females were editing out the men that were unsuitable. They were editing them out, okay? They were having sex with them, but their bodies, due to what's called cryptic female choice, will take the sperm of a man who is unsuitable and discard that sperm, right? And then it will take in the sperm of the man who is not. Now, when you get to the Neolithic, that's when the horrible people took over, right? Now it became a 17-to-1 ratio. All right, 17 women to one man. Why? They know this because they examine, once again, the genetics. Sometime around 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, some horrible men took over. They killed and kicked out most of the men, and they took hordes of women for themselves. Whole harems, right?
Wow.
They took whole harems of women for themselves, okay? And they restricted them. And under those restrictions, what they would do is they would restrict them from having cryptic female choice, right? They didn't have the ability to access choice. So the men, they made the women keep having psychopathic men like them. You understand what I'm saying, y'all? Cryptic female choice was evolved from women in order to get rid of that violent ape and to breed a human being who can be civilized. So this is what happened, y'all. you know, they invented the whole bastard thing. In other words, now you have a category of kids who are the unwanted kids. Now, the men are going around with those 17 women that they were getting with. They might have had 2 or 3 that was quote unquote their wives that they, you know, wanted to give some type of, you know, recognition to. All the rest of them 17, you know, the 14 other ones, their kids were bastard kids. All right. Those are bastard kids. So you have a whole culture where these elite men are going around doing whatever they want to do. They were only recognizing a few kids, and then, you know, that caused all kinds of problems. And one of the things that they would do with these bastard kids, they would do this. They would send them off to war. This is one of the things that the ancient Greeks were very well known for. The ancient Greeks would create and they would encourage men to be sexually, emotionally involved with other men on the battlefield, right? On the battlefield. And they would keep them away from women where you get that EST to make you civilized. No, we don't want that. We want you to be a beast, but you're also still a sexual person. And we know that. So we're going to put y'all out there to have sex with each other and to kill for us.
Wow.
Right? And to kill for us. We don't want any of that woman softness. All right. We don't want any of that stuff, you know, and also the Greek people were very notorious for killing children. Oh, they were very notorious for exposing children. A child that you didn't want or seemed to be weaker than another child, they would throw them to wolves. Literally take them out to the woods and let bears and wolves eat them. Right? This is the cruelty of what happens to cultures when the EST is not absorbed inside the man's noses. Okay, here's the modern thing, y'all. We're still living with this now. Now you got people who are basically trying to uphold this monogamy thing, and it is killing. You know, one of the things that is so interesting about the monogamy issue that it's just so puzzling to me how entrenched this has gotten to people. Anything that's damn near impossible to do, y'all. Let's take a look at it and see if you were meant to do it. All right, if eating mouthfuls and shovelfuls of pork and beef, and, you know, mixed in with lard, you know, if that makes you sick, then maybe you're not supposed to be eating that, right? You know, maybe even though a lot of other people around you are eating it and they say it's okay and it fills up your belly, maybe you need to step back and try to see maybe if there's another way. So this is all the things that needs to happen, y'all, to restore this bonding situation, right? We got to be around each other. Everything up here that you see is based on human beings being close to each other once again. If we're not, everything that I just described, the chemical signals, they don't work over the internet. Okay, you can't swipe right and smell and inhale somebody's, you know, estrotestosterone if you're a man. You can't a woman. You can't inhale a man's androstenone over the internet. You have to have. We're going to have to resocialize, because if we don't resocialize, what's going to happen is more of what you see happening right now, where you have isolated people who are coming out of isolation every once in a while, coming, you know, popping their head up like a gopher, you know, looking for somebody to date or looking for, well, guess what? That person that you want, that your head is popping up for, his or her head is popping up out the hole also. None of y'all have enough estrotestosterone. None of y'all have enough androstenone. You haven't smelled a baby in years. I mean, come on. This when you put this together, y'all, what you're talking about is biological Armageddon. Biological chemical Armageddon happens, and then what happens is biological Armageddon. We're supposed to be like, look, everybody who went to see that movie Sinners, that's the way Black people are supposed to act. If you saw the movie Sinners, right? You saw everybody getting together at the juke joint, right? You saw people making love, right? That is what human beings are supposed to do, right? That's what has to happen to make human beings stay human. If you don't, so
you're saying that the community aspect is what has us evolve into a higher level.
Without the community aspect, you do not. Look, the Shechem and Shechem Ron Efferman, he taught us this a long time ago. He said in one of those lectures that it's a misnomer that high spirituality is achieved by somebody going up and sitting on top of a mountain, and ain't nothing but mountain goats and you know, bears and, you know, cats around and stuff like that. You sitting in a lotus position to achieve some type of enlightenment. Well, the only thing you're going to achieve at that time with that is blue balls if you're a man, all right? you're gonna be sexually deprived because human beings are supposed to be having sex, and you're not going to whatever type of enlightenment that you come upon, and you'll get some type of enlightenment, but enlightenment is meant to be shared. It's a social thing, y'all. It's a social thing. If you don't have a socialized enlightenment, you don't have enlightenment. you don't have anything without socialization, and you don't have anything without socialization without the underpinning of the chemical signals.
It's interesting when I talk to people who are single and they talk about, oh, I'm so peaceful. Well, you're by yourself, so there's no way to test if you're really truly.
Yeah. How you know?
You know, how do you know if you're peaceful, or if there's nothing to trigger you, you have nothing to soothe.
Yeah, so those type of people, those are the toe stomp people. I call those the toe stomp people. All right, they're really not being socialized, and you really can't tell really how they are unless you stomp their foot. All right.
Yeah.
You know, you got to stomp their toe to see if they really are civilized the way they say they are. Right. You know,
I can tell people when I'm riding in a car with someone, I can tell how peaceful they are by how they react to other drivers. You know, because people in traffic, you're going to get cut off. You're going to get people not using their signals, but how you react to that determines your peace. And most people are not challenging themselves inside of the inner realm of who they are.
They've been taught, Moot, that selfishness and individualism is the key to happiness in the Western world, right? That's what they've been taught, right? Every man for himself, every woman for yourself, dog eat dog, you know, all this stuff goes on. And the really, really interesting thing about this, Moot, is that if you're, and this is. I'm not trying to upset women, but I have to say this, and you have to understand this, right? Women, if you are not smelling androstenone, you won't even be able to get along with other women. Y'all, you understand what I'm saying? You can have all the women coalitions that you want, right? You can have all of that, right? But if nobody is smelling androstenone, you will not be able to get along. You will not be able to get along. Right? Everybody's out for themselves. Remember, androstenone makes you generous. Most people come into these communities and these groups that they create, right? Because they come in with we're going to share, we're going to work together. You know, we're going to show women the world what women can do. Well, Look, remember I just told y'all, scientifically, the baseline of women, right, is not sharing. The 8 baseline of women is not to share. It's
to protect the family. The baseline of a woman is to preservation, self-preservation.
It's to protect your own. So that will only go so far. You know, you might make a big deal. Y'all might go far to, you know, and do whatever it is that you're doing, and then somebody's going to stab somebody in the back. Somebody's going to get tripped up. Somebody who was supposed to be at the meeting, and y'all supposed to have this big meeting, and all of a sudden somebody didn't call the other person to make them know that the meeting was going on, and you asking why? Well, I forgot. No, she didn't forget. She didn't want you there because she wanted to take your place. So, you know, it's
the envy is real. Absolutely. The envy is real.
Of course it is. Our job as men, okay, is to protect you both in the outer way, right? From you know, bears and other men and whatever coming at you, but it's also to protect you from these hidden inner type of things that's going on too. And we protect you, and one of the ways we protect you is with our male presence. Our male presence is the androstenone that you inhale into your lungs as women. It's designed to make it so that you can get along with other women, that you don't hate another woman's child, Okay.
But what about the men? I mean, and especially the younger generation, they tend to the men stay in their group of men. So, what does that do for them if they're not, smelling the scent of women? Although most of them still do go to their woman at night, right? Don't they?
Here's the thing about that, Mu. What activates these chemical signals, particularly the androstenone and the estrotestosterone, they don't just act on themselves. They're activated by oxytocin.
Mm-hmm.
They're activated by people coming together in joy. People coming together in joy is what activates these things, right? That's what. How much time do we have?
We're actually winding down now. We have about 4 minutes.
All right.
Less than that.
You have to come together in joy, right? And the only way, African American people have survived, right, is coming together in joy and activating these chemical signals. That's how we've survived. Okay, we survive by doing that, right? By making sure, because when you get together and you dance together and you sing together, you're breathing in all these chemical signals, and you got the joy that's going on. And you also have the sexual stimulation going on. Mm-hmm. You have to have men and women coming together and being sexually stimulated with each other. You're not going to have, and hear me clearly, y'all, the monogamy dream where you're going to be able to turn on sexuality and attraction off and on according to who you're in love with and who you want to stay with forever. That is a pipe dream. And if you keep on trying to do that, that means that you're going to do one thing. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to say, okay, I need to have somebody, but I don't want to settle. So if you never meet that person, if that perfect person never comes up, and you never settle, so you didn't settle at 30 years old. You was getting out of school, right? You didn't settle at 40 years old. You was advancing your career. You didn't settle at 50 years old, right? Because now you want to travel, right?
Yeah.
Didn't settle at 60 years old, right? And now you're dead. You didn't settle. You're gone, all right? You're dead and gone.
Yeah, because after 60, if you don't create ways to extend your life, it really does start to deteriorate. You have to extend your life after 60, and that comes from, again, community.
Mm-hmm. You have to do that. Again, always when people ask me about this, just go watch the movie Sinners. Everything that you saw the movie Sinners do, that's what human beings are supposed to be doing, including the so-called illicit sexuality. She shouldn't have been having sex with that young man. She was married, or he shouldn't have had sex with that woman. She was a vampire, whatever. All right, you have to. If you do not have sex, people, sex is the basic bottom line of all human life. Why? Because on the small end, this much of it is for making babies, but this much of it is for making civilization.
Creativity is the biggest energy for creativity that we have. Everything is a sexual expression when it comes together.
I told y'all exactly how this works. I gave y'all the actual. I just outlined to y'all the actual mechanics of it. Now it's not just rhetoric; it's a scientifically proven the mechanistics of how these things work. Going beyond just somebody's opinion, my opinion, your opinion, or whatever. It's not an opinion. Babies exude hexadecanol, and they don't hexadecanol, and they don't do it for nothing. All right.
All right, Brother G. So I'm going to be listening to my intuition and to you to see if we're going to have a 4, because I still haven't gotten to the book itself. We haven't gotten to the book itself, so we'll see. But thank you for this wonderful insight, and let's keep it going. There's so many other conversations that can come out of this, so I'll be in touch.
Yes.
And keep sending me your material. I love being inspired by it.
I will do so.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me this week. And I look forward to next week and the weeks after that, because we're going to get into some very interesting topic. It's time for us to meet the young people in our world. Okay. Thank you for joining me. See you next week.
What's up, guys? It's Asada, the host of the Gathering of the Griots podcast, part of the Female Solution. Want you to join us every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And guess what we do? We interview authors of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. The books, the experiences, the lifestyles, all of it with fervor. So be there right on the Soulful Chicago Book Fair YouTube page or on the Female Solution Facebook page. We look forward to having you and all our literary essence. Peace.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.